There is major news coming out of the automotive industry, and we really need to pay attention to this because this is definitely going to have major impacts on the car market for both new and used cars. The UAW, which is the United Auto Workers Union, is threatening to go on strike within 48 hours if their demands haven't been met. They are targeting the three major Detroit automakers, which includes Ford, GM, Stellantis, which is the parent company to Chrysler, and that includes Jeep, Alfa Romeo, and a handful of other brands. Now, if this strike happens, that means there are going to be 150,000 workers that are going to go on strike. They're going to stop working, which is going to essentially halt production. And this is big, big news because if this happens, it is going to wreak havoc on the automotive industry. So here's what's going on. In present day today, we are still at about just 50% of the supply of vehicles in the market than we used to be in 2019. And we can consider 2019 to sort of be the last normal year that we had where supply chain issues were not there and supply was normal before car prices went crazy. And given that now it's been a few years, we're in 2023, we're still at a 50% deficit in the supply of the new and used car market. Now, if this strike does go through, and it almost doesn't matter for how long it lasts, it could be 5 days, 10 days, 20, 25, 30, and so on. Regardless of however long these workers strike, if their demands and their contracts aren't met, that is going to have a major impact on the market because that's going to halt production, which means we're going to have less supply in the market, which means cost of new cars and used cars are going to go up. So it is going to really create a lot of trouble in a market that's already in trouble. But here's the most interesting thing that I find about this story, and that is if what they are proposing for their new contracts, if all of their demands are met, well, we still face an issue because this is over wages and they are looking for at least a 20% increase. And then there are some finer terms in that contract. But regardless, when these contracts are renegotiated and the cost of labor goes up for these major automakers, that still means that the cost of doing business ends up going up, which means that gets passed on to the end consumer, the car buyers like you and I. So whether this strike with UAW happens or not, and I hope it doesn't, and I hope that they get what they're looking for, and that production doesn't have to get halted and the industry isn't affected too bad. But regardless of whether it happens or not, there is one effect on the market that seems like it's going to come true no matter what, which is the prices of new cars and used cars are going to go up. And it'll either be because they're going on strike and so production was halted and then there's less supply in the market, or it'll be because the cost of doing business has gone up due to wage increases, which then makes producing cars more expensive. And it's really interesting because if you look over time and you look at the graphs of the cost of producing cars continue to get more expensive. There's more technology in them, there are more components that are going in them, and they're becoming more and more expensive. I actually, when I was doing my research, thought it would be the opposite effect, where they get cheaper over time and more commoditized, but that has not been the case. And a strike like this one that is potentially looming around the corner within 48 hours could have major impacts. Now, we already know that we are dealing with some unusual circumstances in the industry as it is. We have high interest rates, meaning it's already really unaffordable for almost 50% of Americans who need a vehicle to afford a car. Because the monthly payment that they can afford, as Cox Automotive reported, is typically around $400 a month. And these days, in order to finance a vehicle, whether it's new or used in the retail market, at a $400 payment is almost non-existent. So if the strike happens or if these wages go up, especially for these automakers and these brands, it's going to become increasingly difficult for Americans to afford vehicles, especially those who need a lower monthly payment based on their earnings. So it's really important to watch out what happens because this is going to affect the car market one way or another. I think if they go on strike, that'll actually be a double whammy because they'll go on strike, it'll halt production, and eventually they will reach a deal where wages will be increased, but now we've lost both production and have increased wages. Or they'll come to an agreement, fingers crossed, where wages will go up, but then the prices of cars will go up as well because cost of doing business has gone up. So these are really interesting times that we live in. Very major news in the automotive industry. I'm going to attach some articles down in the link below if you're interested in reading more about what's happening. I'm going to keep the updates coming and I'll keep you guys posted on all things with the UAW strike and what the outcome looks like. And on a final note, what I find to be really interesting about all of this is where brands like Tesla really have the opportunity to take a lion's share of the market. Now, one amazing thing that Tesla has done, in a sense, is that they have automated a lot of their manufacturing processes, which doesn't rely as much on labor. And it allows them to be more efficient in their manufacturing practices, meaning that they have the ability to produce, to bring costs down over time, which means the prices of their vehicles come down over time. And as we can see, Tesla is now one of the most affordable cars on the market for any price range. In fact, you can actually lease a brand new Tesla Model 3 for $375 a month. It's one of the only cars that will fall into that price range. And again, that gives them that competitive edge. When you think and do business differently and you really innovate, you can see how it can really make a difference. So it'll be really interesting to see how this all folds out. I'll keep you guys posted, and if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button.